Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@usaprepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial is set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us. Jason's engineering the broadcast at Genesis Communications Network in Minnesota. GCNlive.com. I'm Vincent Finelli. If you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call. 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. Telephone listen number provided by Global Star, 712-770-9418. Now, why am I mentioning Global Star? Why am I giving them credit? It's because Global Star uplinks to Galaxy 19 satellite in space. And they pick up the feed from Genesis Communications Network and broadcast it in many locations across the planet. And they pick up our broadcast for free. They don't charge us. Pretty much most others have to pay for it. Why are they doing that? I think for two reasons. One, I believe that they have some extra bandwidth on the satellite that's not being used right now. And number two, they like what we do. And I think those are the two reasons. Thank you very much, Global Star Network. Rick Miller's with us, live on the left coast. Welcome, Rick.
Oh, just outside Beaufort.
You do that so well. You do that.
Yeah, you do too, and I absolutely miss your company. Once a week for 2 hours is wonderful, and I'm lucky, but I wished I could spend more time with you. I think that we could heal each other, because I'm getting sick from all of the media. In every direction, in every orifice, it's at you as disinformation, and within it is serious stuff going on that we don't have the knowledge base yet to approach, or even, what do we do with this? Like Fukushima, you want to talk about. Or, worse, is a woohoo virus. That's what I call it, the woohoo virus. Oh, man, I have had the fortune now of meeting Dr. Francis Boyle. He was creator of the U.S. Bioweapons Act and claims that the coronavirus is a biological weapon. Now, what we're seeing with Fukushima and other directions of military and Iran, Iraq, Trump being acquitted, all of it, how much of it is real? And how much of it is about money and or controlling us? There was a flight from Ukraine, I think it was Ukraine, into the Netherlands, and during the flight, 4 individuals, first it was a 17-year-old kid, and then 3 others fainted in mid-flight. And now they're determining that, the first fear was there's a lack of oxygen on the aircraft and people are passing out. Then it spread through the aircraft that it was the woohoo virus. And then it was, what is happening is that our imaginations are absolutely and taking control of our reality. And that's normal, except it's being manipulated and orchestrated by a very small group of individuals. And it was Brzezinski, he's the one that said it's now easier to kill 1 million people than it is to control it. what a wonderful place to start an epidemic where there are 56 million people in one location. It's just see how it plays. And now the media has gone crazy. It dominates everything. And while all of that's happening, Fukushima sneaks in, dumping a bunch of water. They're saying the only thing they can't clean out of it is tritium. Now, most people don't have enough physics to know whether or not that's an important thing or not. People need to understand that tritium is different than deuterium. And deuterium appears in large abundances in certain waters of the world. Just the water between Australia, New Zealand, actually, and Antarctica is almost pure deuterium. That's where they mine it. But tritium is a different isotope altogether. And when I talk about this, it's like I'm very serious in suggesting that heavy water is this is what's called heavy water, that is a serious plague for men. And when you realize, I was talking to someone from the Ozarks last night, and they're now concerned about the New Madrid fault line. They absolutely should be, because there will be a grid down situation, and it takes 1 full year to power one of those nuclear power plants down. And Fukushima is just one of 21 Daiichi-like reactors on the New Madrid fault line. They're all leaking. What do you think that's going to do to America? If you think Fukushima's a problem right now, what's going to happen shortly? Because Yellowstone is showing its ugly face as far as Ohio underground right now. How come the media isn't covering any of this? Did I get cut off?
Are you asking me? Are you asking?
There was this silence, and all of a sudden I figured, they've actually cut me off the air. Can you imagine? That's where I think it's going to go for me. And I'm mellow. I don't cuss. I don't swear. And I try to say I don't know. And yet I have serious questions. And if I don't know, where are we going with that? It's dangerous. It's dangerous out there. Just being on Earth right now is dangerous. Japan, China. Can you imagine China and how they rule their roost in terms of disclosure to their public? And if they're doing that to them, what do you think's happening here? And Pelosi, the disrespect of tearing right in front of the American public on State of the Union message, and here it is, split in our parties to such an extent, it's tearing our country apart at the seams, and the news media love it because it gives them legs in terms of cash flow and credibility.
Maxine Waters boycotted the State of the Union address. And, it doesn't matter if you disagree with someone. You can do it politely. I remember a time when the Republican and Democratic Party wanted the same thing for America. They just wanted to do it differently. What's going on? Mm-hmm. Well, with Maxine Waters, she actually proved something twice, as it was widely reported, or is widely reported, that we have been led to believe that a head transplant did not work. But Maxine Waters actually proved twice that a head transplant didn't work. She's had 2 head transplants. And she's still stupid.
Vincent, I need to spend more time with you and bring you back into glass half full processes here, buddy. I love you, and I'm watching you change, and I can't do anything about it because I love you, and it's like, God darn, where are we going to go with, darn it, where are we going to go? Our politicians are killing us.
They are literally. They are literally killing us for their own pleasures and their own greed.
Agendas.
Literally.
They have agendas. Some of it isn't even about money. It's worse than that. Did you know? Here's a fact. This is a true fact that in matriarchal societies throughout history, there were no wars when women ruled.
Well, if Mrs. Finelli had her way, there'd be no wars. That's absolutely true. Absolutely true.
You don't need to war to agree to disagree.
That's right.
And that's the distinction between globalism and nationalism. But it isn't like the Bene Gesserit, in Dune. I mean, there's something wrong here. And
but don't you think
we can't? And you think the media is going to point it out? The Washington Post and the New York Times and the Cap Press, and it goes downhill. I don't mind opinions, and I don't mind people speaking out with freedom of speech. It's all good, except when what's called counterintelligence is called lying by omission. And that's why in court they want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as a metaphor for what's going on. Do you think there's any biased or unbiased reporting going on right now?
Of course there is. But you mentioned
who owns those media that puts a cap on Fox over CNN?
Mm-hmm.
And why are they manipulating our world? And that's whom I would go for, the owners of these stations.
Well, I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Start cleaning house before you even bother with politicians.
I'm so glad you.
It's like there's something else going on here.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was thinking last night about the destruction of America. And here's one guy, just one guy is so pervasive in the destruction of America. And his name is Jeff Bezos. And here's what I mean by that. We used to have stores. We used to have experts in the stores. And we'll just use the old hardware store example. So you could go to the hardware store and you could say, I got this problem and here's what the symptoms are. My screen door is sagging, or I need a window screen. What do I do? And they could tell you all the tools, all the supplies, everything you needed. And they could even show you how to do it right there at the store. We don't have that anymore. Who damaged that? Well, that would be the big box stores that have been actually displaced by Jeff Bezos and company. Okay? Even the big box stores are having problems now. He has singly dismantled the American retail fabric. He has. Why would anybody go to a store now when you can buy it for less off your phone, from your phone? Why would you buy it for more? Because he is. And how does he do that? How does he sell it for less? Well, he gets subsidies. He gets subsidies. So where the mom and pop store have to pay all these taxes and all these fees and insurances and licenses and ad infinitum, Jeff Bezos comes in and he gives a hint that he may move to the city, whatever that city is. And the cities kill themselves to give him free breaks, tax breaks, land, everything you can think of. That's how he does it. So continuing on with Rick Miller about the destruction of the retail fabric, the storehouses that used to be able to go to that had supplies on hand on the shelves. We've now moved to a virtual fabric where you order on the internet, if the internet's working, if the power grid is working, if the cell phone towers are working, so that you can buy from the convenience of your lazy boy. Or you can derail what you're supposed to be doing at work on the job, and you're using your cell phone to go shopping instead of doing what you're supposed to be doing for the company that is paying you to be there. Well, let me give you an example of how this works. So Jeff Bezos, Amazon and company get favorable shipping rates that you cannot get. There's no way you could get them. And I'm going to give you an example of something that I did. I have determined long ago that it is no longer in the interest of our family to be loyal to large corporations. We are not loyal to any large corporations. Why? Because they change the rules all the time. They change what the warranties mean. They said one thing, they changed the rules, and they go, no, we don't do that anymore. No, we don't mean a lifetime guarantee. No, actually, it's only 90 days. See, and you've had it for a little over a year, so no, we don't honor that anymore. That's what companies are doing to us. So because of them changing the rules that we have no say in, we are no longer loyal. So now it's what's the best deal for us? What is the best for us? What's the best value? Not necessarily the cheapest, but what is the best overall value for us? And that's what we do. So I bought a small bottle of, you can think of it as supplements. I'm not going to say exactly what it is, but it was a jar that would fit in your hand easily. Let's say it's a jar about 3 ounces. Okay, the whole jar would fit inside a coffee cup. Okay, that was shipped by Sam's Club. Free shipping. The item was $10, and it came in a box with lots of packing. The box was 17 inches by 11 inches by 12 inches. 17 by 11 by 12. The whole thing, shipping and the item, cost about $10. Literally $10. Now, I could have bought it at the store for the same amount and paid tax on it. But the tax in Springfield, Missouri, where there's a Sam's Club, is about 8%. I can pay 25% less tax if I have it shipped, because the tax rate at our farm is lower by about 25% than the tax rate in Springfield, Missouri. The way Missouri has its tax structured, there's the state tax, there's the county tax, there's the local tax, there's the city tax, there's the town tax, and then there's the 911 tax. So it's all added up, many, many taxes, and depending on how corrupt your area is, the taxes are higher or higher or higher. And I consider 6% really high. 8% I consider out of control. 10% I consider usury. So I buy online because I can use our location where the products are delivered at a lower tax rate than if I go into the big city. So that's what I do. So the way this happens is Bezos has engineered, structured, negotiated favorable shipping rates with companies like FedEx and the United States Postal Service, which is another corporation. And so, I believe, have Sam's Club and all the rest of them. Because how could they ship a box that I can hardly get my arms around from Springfield, Missouri to the farm, about 60 miles, and put the product in it and pack it and put tape on it and a label and all that and handle it for $10? How can they do it? They can't. I can't. I couldn't ship it across the road to my neighbor for $10. Just the empty box, I couldn't do it. It would cost more than that. That's what's wrong with America. And that's the greed. That's because Sam's Club has to do it. Because Bezos does it. Walmart has to do it. I bought oil. Oil was $8.99 a gallon at Walmart about a year ago.
You're talking about longshoremen and the shipping that is now, long-haul shipping, that is now being managed by Russian mafia. And
when we come back,
it used to be the Teamsters, and that whole mafia tribe that has now moved to Russian mafia.
And we'll be right back. We'll be right back. Taking a detour with Dr. Richard Allen Miller, talking about the destruction of America, one business at a time. At the center of the epicenter of the destruction is Jeff Bezos with his internet shopping. So here's the scenario. So normally you can buy mobile Delvac 15W40 motor oil for diesel engines at about $15 a gallon. It was on sale for $8.99. We'll call that $9 a gallon. So I bought some. Now you can put 3 of them in a box. That's how they shipped it from Walmart. 3 of them in one box. So at $9 each on sale, normally $15 each, I bought I bought some, and they put them in a box. So 3 in a box, that's $9, $18, $27 for the oil on sale. You figure $1 for the box, that'd be $28. That's the cost of the box and the oil on sale. Okay, they shipped it to me for free. I looked up the cost of shipping just that weight. If we had an empty box, the size that they shipped me, with nothing in it, it just weighed the same amount as those 3 gallons of oil. The cost for me to ship that from the UPS store is $32.99. It costs more to ship an empty box than it costs Walmart to ship it with the oil in it to me with the box. Can you imagine that? That's what's wrong with America. Now, how is a small hardware store going to compete with that? They cannot. They can't.
That was the intent. That was the purpose, was to get rid of the small family farm as a metaphor. And that's what's made America weak, is the independent individual that does his own thing different than his neighbor that allowed America to be great. It was the Bible and the pistol. Hoorah.
I hope we're all getting back to that pistol. So,
well, that's why, Virginia and South Carolina and all the rest of these places are now testing what they can and can't do with your civil rights. And I'm doing a screenplay with John Golden. I've been asked to do, called Once Upon a Time at San Quentin. And let me tell you where all these different concepts of code of silence comes from and why. And when you start to look at the distinctional difference between a prison and a penitentiary, they're different. Why? Well, one was done by Quaker. And I'm here to tell you, you thought that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was creepy with the Manson family. You have no idea where I'm going to go with this in terms of civil rights and what is and is not happening with incarceration, rehabilitation. Our children are our single most important natural resource and are going to be the people that wheel you and me around when we're too old to even chew our food. And it's scary to realize the educational process that these people, like that flight from Ukraine into the Netherlands, where 4 people, just with their imagination, had episodes of feeling like they're not getting enough oxygen and or they're coming down with the flu. Now, the flu is real. It has always been real, and the one thing that cures you is when mom exposed you to measles as a child. What is immunization about? Where did that come from?
Wait a minute. Did you say, Rick, did you say the one thing that kills you is when mom exposed you to the measles, or do you mean that desensitized you?
Desensitized me. Yeah, you see,
right.
It's the human body that cures itself, like the mind. And man, I'm speaking on a whole nother level now. And man has a responsibility for the thoughts he chooses to entertain. That's written in stone. And I'm allowing these people to control my thoughts and what I worry about. And there is a place on the internet, enjoy this place, called Church of the Virus. And what that is the whole concept of Inception, and that movie about a dream within a dream within a dream. And each one has a different timetable to it. And that's where we're at right now. The idea that a concept or idea is in itself a disease. And once you get that, now you're halfway toward taking control of your own ship. There it is.
Rich Eben's with us. Welcome, Rich.
Well, thank you, Vince. Rick, how are you doing this morning, buddy?
I'm going bald. I'm natural causes, Rick. Jesus, I pulled it out. This is craziness.
Yeah, well, I apologize. I haven't had time to listen to the show so far this morning. I'm just chiming in. I got permission from Vince to do so when we talked privately yesterday. I just had an idea, and I wanna ask.
Spread the disease. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. My idea is, and this is to President Trump, and I've given personal messages to him. I know the White House and the Pentagon listens to this show. I just want to, first of all, I want to congratulate President Trump for Happy Vindication Day, for the hoax, the lie, the propaganda, the theater of this falsified impeachment with no evidence, no crimes, and it just shows where we're at as a nation. And this is part of the idea and solution that I've come up with. And on this show, usaprepares.com, we have all contributed a lot of ideas and solutions for the benefit of America, for prosperity, for options, for opportunity, for controlling one's own destiny. But now we're at a crossroads. There's too many of us who are fighting for survival. There's too many patriots who've been demonized, demonetized, threatened. And my suggestion to President Trump is, and I got this idea a little bit from Rush Limbaugh, a little bit from the NFL, a little bit from life, and why don't we create a Hall of Fame list, a list for the Brave 300, and then another list for the Brave 300, and then another list for the Brave 300. And my idea for President Trump is to create a list of patriotism, of people who are freedom and liberty-minded, people who have been speaking up publicly to help America, to make us be more independent, to control one's own destiny. And those of you who have been helping America and President Trump, we all know how we've been demonetized and threatened over the years. And I'm not saying that we all need a Medal of Freedom trophy like Rush Limbaugh. I don't think we care about that. But the State of the Union speech triggered this idea where we have these Brave 300 lists, and we have task force to basically show the patriotism, the freedom and liberty lovers, and maybe even give them create a task force for giving those people good jobs. You know, there's so many volunteers who have guts, who have been sticking their neck out for the last 4 or 5 years and more, talking about all the distractions, the dumbing down, the divisions of America, and how we're more divided than we ever were because of the propaganda, the lies, the false flags, the hoaxes that comes out of the mainstream media and the powers that be. What we need is to create incentives, recognition, and participation, and a brand new start for America. So my idea to President Trump is to root out these patriots who believe in freedom and liberty and have actually participated, who have actually had the guts to come forward, who have been demonetized and threatened. And let's start a whole new trend, because none of us are going to do this on our own. Well, listen, folks, I can go into much more detail and specificity. This is Rick's day. I don't want to take any more time. Vince, I want to thank you very much for allowing me to chime on for a few minutes. You guys keep doing a great job and have a great day, and thank you for letting me exercise my First Amendment rights. Bye-bye now.
Rich, you're very welcome. That was Rich Eben. And he called me.
One man's journey off the grid.
Yeah, he called me yesterday, and he said that we need to have recognition for those who stick their necks out and those who are fighting the fight. And I said, what a great idea! If you'd like to do it, why don't you come on? I'm sure Rick would appreciate that. And that's what happened, and that's why Rich Eben called in. And he's the guy that thought of it, so he deserves the credit. And you know, it's
you're the one that started it.
Well, no.
No, you're going to jail first.
Well, that is the that is the list. That is the list that they would be looking for. Okay,
yeah, they would be. They would say. I wonder if they're even human.
Mm-hmm.
That's the scariest part of all of it. I can actually imagine there's something else going on here.
Let me share something with you. It was really unpleasant. I was on another show as a guest, and a caller called up. This was not on Genesis Communications Network. And a caller called up, and he talked about exercising his freedom of speech right. And then he laced into Steve Elkins and me for doing nothing. This guy was absolutely out of control, violently angry, and he threatened Steve Elkins. And that's where we are today. We have people who have no clue, who are out of control, and people are afraid of them. And where does someone get off saying that Steve Elkins has done nothing? I mean, Steve Elkins is a brilliant, brilliant nurse. He has answers that many, many nurses don't have. And he's willing to put his neck on the line and tell people things that others won't tell them. And you do too. And USA Prepares does. I mean, all of us do. And yet we get beat up. Half of the comments, there's a thumbs up and a thumbs down on the Ron Gibson channel. And every once in a while I check it for my own amusement. And 50%, half of the thumbs up or thumbs down for USA Prepares are thumbs down. Half. So where do these people come from? I mean, we're teaching them how to can. We're teaching them which weapon how to select their own weapon if they choose to. We teach them about physics and Fukushima. And yet, half the people feel it's necessary to give us a thumbs down. Half. That's where America is. And do I want to help those people? Of course not. And so, think about that. We're going to need less wherewithal to help these people because they're not worth it. Last night, I was a guest on another broadcast with Steve Elkins, and a wonderful person called in with very, very kind remarks. I was stunned, absolutely stunned, and after the broadcast, I was still connected with Steve. We were off the air, Steve Elkins, and I told him I was absolutely stunned by the comments that a lady made, and her name is Myrrh, and she lives in Wisconsin. And she's called in. Welcome, Myrrh.
Oh, thank you for taking my call. I thought maybe I could chime in on the purple frequency, a little higher time there. But
sure.
The main part I wanted to play for you last night, I had already advanced past it. And if you don't mind, I'll just play just a minute of it for you, too. You ought to love this, okay? Hold on.
Sure, go ahead.
9 a.m.
Now, I'm going to tell you something from my personal professional experience in this medium. Vince Vanelli is one of the absolute most naturally talented broadcasters I've ever heard.
Yep, I agree with that.
Because he had no background. He had no background in the medium, and he got thrown into it. I don't know if you know the story there. You probably do since you listened to him. But Vince Vanelli used to own a pretty nice piece of land up there in Missouri, and he wanted to do something and get involved. And so he volunteered with Stadtmiller to have some sort of an expo up there. And that's how he got into broadcasting, was through that incident. But
I knew Stadtmiller was involved with getting him in, and he has occasionally gone up there for Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever, but I think this last year they weren't doing as well. So, but they still have the land, they still have the farm, but they're still under all kind of harassment, and he had lung infection and all this kind of stuff, and he's only a 138-pound guy.
Is he a little guy? Well, he's got a wonderful set of pipes. God gave him a wonderful presence.
Oh, he does.
And a wonderful set of pipes.
He carries his gun around everywhere. He wears what he calls his uniform. He described as a solid color shirt and his blue jeans, right? And then I guess I took up enough of your time, but I just wanted to be sure and get that first part in because it's so important. Because this was a professional radio man.
And that was Roger Sales, right?
It was. And it was Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. See, this is the thing, like Bucky Fuller, right, said? Buckminster Fuller? Richard Buckminster Fuller, actually. You don't fight the system, you replace it. And that's what we're doing, making it obsolete. It's not, when you fight, you give them your energy, right? When you push back, that's taking your energy. You do a little karate move and just get out of their way and let them fall down. Mm-hmm. Quit giving them your attention and your money, your energy.
Well,
right?
that's exactly right. And Mer, what we're trying to do here at the farm is avoid paying tax every way we can, legally, lawfully. So we read the tax code and we figure out the best way to do it. If it's tax exempt, we don't pay tax. If it's for the farm, we don't pay tax. Now, I'm not talking about tax evasion, but I'm talking about starving the beast any way you can. Any way you can.
Right.
And that's what we do. And that's one of the things that we're trying to teach others. They can start their own business. Right. Any business they want. Anything that if they like cooking, they can have a recipe business. They can write an online book, and they can deduct that room in their house, the electricity, the roof repair, the lawn maintenance, everything that pertains to the business. They can deduct that from their taxes. But people don't want to do it. It's too hard, I guess.
Yeah. Well, President Trump, we got to hand it to him. When he stood there and smiled and hollered, pointed at the rally and at the camera where they had the red light on, big news. It just opened everybody up to say, wait a minute, I need to question this. And as we do that, the next thing we're going to change is usury. Can you imagine a system without central bankers? Doesn't matter if you have gold in a bank somewhere. Because really right now, all we're doing is exchanging these paper notes for whatever they say it's worth. So say it's worth nothing, as it should be. Okay? The economy serves us.
Very interesting you say that, because I've made it like a minor hobby. Whenever I go and meet someone who's a banker, and I'm on one side of the teller's window from them, and it's a new person, I'll say, my best Columbo impersonation. I'm a little confused. Can you tell me what money is? No one has been able to do it. Not one single person. They'll say, well, here, let me show you one. It's this. It's this, George Washington. That's money. They don't know. The tellers don't know. The managers don't know. It's higher up the food chain where they actually know.
It's exchange for labor and production is what it is, not speculation as we see it being used now. The speculators will quit speculating or go home if we quit using that system.
And if we used cash, if we used real money, and we settled our cash, lets you settle your
in front of children.
Cash lets you settle your debts right then and there. That's what cash does.
And with the Amish, and they're mostly German, by the way. So, but it's a lot of times the things you don't do. Just don't go places if you don't really need to. Enjoy being home. I'm looking at it right now. I don't want to go anywhere.
Mer, did you want to hold through the break?
No, I'll let you go. This is Rick's time, like the other Rick said. So, bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay. Hey, thank you so much, Mer. Rick, that's why we do it. That's why we do what we do, because of people like Mer. We'll be right back. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked, hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. Rick, last Monday, a week ago, 1,900 were infected. Well, actually, about 1,950. Tuesday morning, 4,500 were infected. Wednesday morning, 5,000 were infected. Wednesday evening, 6,000 were infected. A week later, 24,000 were infected. Those are actually probably way, way underestimated. What do you think's happening with the coronavirus?
I'm sorry? Well, no,
coronavirus.
I didn't. Right, the last thing, I didn't hear the question you were actually asking.
Okay, so the question is, we went from a little over a week ago, 1,900 were infected on Monday morning, 4,500 Tuesday morning, 5,000 Wednesday morning, 6,000 Wednesday evening. About a week later, 24,000 infected. The death numbers, we believe, are being underreported, and the infectious rate is underreported, we believe. What do you think's happening? How serious is this? And what do we need to do?
I think the first thing you need to do is realize that the media is not telling the truth, and that China most likely is lying because of embarrassment. Now, it's a weapon. It escaped the lab. How it escaped, or whether it was done with intent or not, I don't know that we'll ever really know, like 9/11. Was it a hologram? Did it really happen? I can tell you that the Pentagon being hit by a cruise missile was not an aircraft, and they used the media and the scare tactics to ramp it up while they covered their ass, like China most likely is doing right now. Now, just before the break, I wanted to say something important. She made a reference about you being a natural, and you are. You're the best radio personality I've ever had the privilege of working with. And so thank you. And you're reasonable, you're fair, you're creepy, and you're bigoted. And I love it. You're good. You're a natural. And really, Vincent, you're the best radio person. Now, I've done New York City. I've done, top end stuff. So I wanted you and I wanted everyone out there to realize, while they have criticisms about, well, he's a gearhead, and that's all. But you're the best I've ever worked with, and I'm honored and pleased to do that. And I think we're never really going to know what happened. I'm concerned right now about a second and third wave of, oh my gosh. That's what I'm concerned about. Is this going to go away now? Or are we going to all of a sudden realize somebody lied and the vector's worse? Well, let's see. I've got look at that. My computer all by itself came on, and it won't turn off. Who can do that? Who can turn my computer on? It's been off for 7 or 8 minutes. I'm downstairs. I come back up, and all of a sudden, while I'm talking to you, it came on. That means there's hackers on my board right now. And I'm just letting everybody know, I know that I'm a person of interest like you are. And I'm not going to stop, because what I have to say is important. You need to control your thoughts. Once you do that, they've lost. And that's all, as simple as that. Now, as far as health, your body is already trying to stave off the flu. The seasonal changes and the snow, if you eat right, and nobody does, obesity rules. But if you eat right and you get the right exercise, you're not going to get sick. Because it doesn't work like that. Sickness, and I'm writing a brand new book. It's going to go up on my website next week, like the Healing Yourself one. It's called Stress Management, a holistic approach, because illness comes from stress. And if you don't think the media is trying to stress you, I point out again and again and again, the 4 people on that one aircraft, just with their mind's eye, fainted. Now, was it because of lack of oxygen? No. Was it the coronavirus? No. What happened? We don't know, but it happened. Well, I can tell you what happened. Their belief system caused them to get ill. Your mind's eye is more important than any other thing in the universe. Imagination is reality. And that means you have to train your mind not to be flowing from one idea to the next as a disease. And that's why I said it right out. The Church of the Virus. Look it up. It's really interesting how an idea becomes an infection. It was a whole concept of called inception, going into somebody's brain, making them think it's their idea, and then allowing that to go where it goes in controlling that person as the idea grows and grows. I'm trying to help. You know, Dr. Norm Shealy would be the first to tell you everything comes from natural sources. Originally, the Germans did standardized extract, which is targeted chemistry, and then they beef it up, and we'll call that an immune system shot to boost your immune system. Your immune system doesn't need to be increased or enhanced. It's been weakened because of your diet and your belief systems that it's weak. Once you start to realize how important and strong you are, watch what happens next, just with that glass half full over glass half empty. And that is the key to all of it, including health. Of course, I keep some colloidal silver over there on my cupboard. Yes, I do need activated charcoal once in a while to go in, but I'm doing it not from allotropic medicine. And this new direction is suggesting that taking microdoses of different toxins like mushrooms or hemp, CBDs, they're lookalike chemistries, and it freaks the brain out, and the brain produces its own. Now imagine being able to produce that with your mind's eye, just by visualizing it happening in your mind's eye, and then watch what happens next. And that's how you take placebo at 10%, your belief system, and you extend it to 60% because you believe it's happening. How does that work? There's more going on here.
Rick, one of the questions that I was asked yesterday, and I've been trying to find this out, and I have not been able to, is does this virus infect only Chinese, or does it infect everyone? Because it seems right now that...
I don't know.
I don't know,
and I don't really care, because right behind it there's 20 more in the laboratory that they've developed as bioweapons. And that's the creepy part. It's not about what's going to kill you. What's going to kill you is your belief system, not the disease itself. And whether it's Chinese, is it a drop of moisture in the air that goes into your mouth and you breathe it in and then you're infected, or somebody touches you? Yes, we believe that it is transmitted by touch and so on, like HIV. It is, in fact, it was modified by the HIV virus, so that's why it's clonal. It has that round corona-looking shape to it. Now, beyond that, it's a bioterrorism weapon, and they're using it right now on your belief systems. And I am going to tell you candidly, Black Plague, yellow fever, I had both of those shots when I was 4 years old going to China. I had to stand in line with a bunch of sailors, and I was watching full-grown men in the third day of 6 days of plague shots, getting ready for going overseas back in the 40s. I watched them dropping like flies. They were getting sick, because what they did back then is give you a dose of it, just enough that your body could cope and overcome it by creating its own antibodies. It's your body that does the work. And they were exposing you like they do with measles, giving you a small dose of it. Now, once you understand that concept, realize you have control of your ship. You really, honestly do. The only thing that can kill you is your belief that you're being killed. It's as simple and complex as that. And that's why all your saints in history have stressed the importance of training the mind, meditation, learning how to quiet the mind from watching the media, whatever, Donald Duck. And that's whom I'm going to vote for, not Donald Trump. I'm voting for Donald Duck for president. None of the people they're offering, from Bernie Sanders on down to Clinton, are qualified or worthy of that position, including Donald Trump. None of them are. They haven't been qualified since, I don't know, maybe Harry Truman. Harry Truman got it without wanting it because of the assassination and death of Roosevelt. Now, I'm going to tell you something else. I actually met Harry Truman when I was a little boy. I went right up to him and shook his hand. I've got a picture of it. I think I was like 9 or 10 years old. My dad was in Washington, D.C. going through CREI, so radio school, so he could get a job at Boeing. And the buck stops here with all of you. And once you realize that, the real truth is not out there, like Mueller would suggest. It's inside you. And it's different for each of us because that's what made us God's favorite. And just because my belief system is different than yours does not mean I'm wrong, any more than I'm saying that that fence over there is blue because I see a different side of it than you. It's brown to you because that's what you can say, and you make an assumption. It's brown on the other side. That's the limitation of physics. It's not real. It doesn't have the answers any more than religion does. And religion isn't about Jesus. Religion is about the way you practice your own moral codes of ethics and rules of conduct. And they're all different, and a Muslim prays 6 times a day. How much does a Christian pray?
We'll be right back. Yeah, we'll be right back. For those of you who may be new to the class, Rick mentioned the buck, B-U-C-K, stops here. And the origin is with United States President Harry S. Truman. And what he meant by that was he is not going to pass on the responsibility of acting on whatever it was to someone else. It stops with him. He will make the decision. He will make it happen. And that's where the term the buck, B-U-C-K, stops here, originated. And what there used to be were these slips of paper attached to, let's say, a memo, a typewritten memo, or even a handwritten memo that required some kind of an action. And it would be passed from one person uphill to the next person who would say, no, I can't do it. I got to send it up to the boss. And that guy might look at it and say, I got to send it up to the boss. And ultimately, there was no person left to pass it on up to because it stopped with the president of the United States. And that's where that came from. Next item, I want to call out the medical industry. I want to call them out right here, right now. And here it is. So, Rick, the Hippocratic Oath starts with first, do no harm. Okay. Now, is it possible, I've mentioned this before on the air, is it possible to do harm by doing nothing? And the answer is yes, it is. And here's exactly what I mean. I'd love to have your opinion on this. So there are people in the medical profession who know exactly what is going on with this coronavirus in the United States. There are people who know. There are people who are parts of committees that are in the emergency management type arena, working with the government as consultants, as employees, as volunteers. People who have specific skills, and the governments of, let's say, the state or the locality, whether it be the city, whatever it is, they know. They know because they're brought into meetings and they're told, okay, now you can't say anything. You cannot say anything because what you're going to hear is terrifying. So here's what it is. And then they discuss the situation of the virus, for example. And then they learn, okay, wow, it's really that big. The news is saying it's much, much smaller than that. Gosh, isn't that interesting? The minute I start talking about this, I see that the bars saying that I have frame loss going to GCN have occurred. The second I started talking about this. So let me just make sure, in case you didn't hear it. So I'm saying that I believe that there are people who are in these committees of emergency management type organizations that are government set up. I believe that they are brought in and briefed on what's happening with this virus, and they're told you will not say anything. You can't say anything. And they don't. And I believe that they have violated, if they're in the medical profession, that they have violated their Hippocratic oath of first do no harm, because they're doing harm by not telling people that it's here, it's real, and they can die if they contract it. Rick, your thoughts?
So we have, each of us, a responsibility, and to go internal and identify our personal feelings on a given thing. Medicine, allotropic medicine, is no longer about trying to help any more than the police are there to serve and protect. It's different, and they're trying to actually change the definitions. And as far as I'm concerned, the only one that's going to protect me now, totally, is me. And that's that. And I will depend on my neighbor. It will be, as a metaphor, it will be my neighbor that will save my life. It won't be someone in Oklahoma. And that's why people in Oklahoma, I wish we're living here. And, that's because I know how they feel, and why are they there when we now need, at the end of days, to be together to reinforce each other in saving what is about to happen. And I have always gone back to Joseph Campbell when he said, when you see the kingdom of the Father on earth, the apocalypse has already begun. It is perpetual in its potential. And Fukushima and the coronavirus in China and the president working with Ukraine and the United States and Ukraine.
Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us, class. If you'd like to learn more about him, go to his website, buy his books. You can go to richardallenmiller.com. Richard, A-L-A-N, Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R.com, richardallenmiller.com. And you can get his latest ESP book. And if you buy it directly from him, he will personalize it, as he's done for me over the years. Tomorrow, looks like 2 hours of tomorrow's broadcast is going to be just me and tips from my unfinished, unpublished book. And so I'll be teaching the class myself tomorrow. If you'd like to call in, that'd be wonderful. If you think you have tips that you'd like to share, that would be great. And if you'd like to talk about some of the tips that I have and enhance them, expand upon them, and say whether they've worked for you or not, that would be great too. And so tomorrow's number, if you'd like to call in, I'll give it to you right now, is 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. I've got one question for Rick before I bring Robert on. Robert, just stay with us for another minute or so. Rick, very quickly, I've been calling out for the last few minutes the American medical industry by saying doing nothing, not sharing valuable, important, pertinent, time-sensitive material about the coronavirus, which is a killer for sure, which is spreading at an increasing rate for sure, which has caused 2 ships now to be quarantined with everyone on board. Nobody's getting off. A Japanese and an Italian cruise liner, for sure. And we believe that this is just wave number 1, and the following waves are going to be even worse, probably with the inoculation. Get a direct dose of it. I'm not going to take that. But the question is, do you think that the medical industry has violated their Hippocratic oath by not telling us what is happening?
Everybody knows that. Look at what's happening with the opiate crisis in America. and the medical profession and individuals that own those pharmaceutical houses going to prison. It's about time that we lay down our feelings about what's going on. I have a Seventh-day Adventist doctor that can't wait to put me on a script of some kind because of my age, flip me over into a corner there where I have to come in 4 times a year, and he has a revolving door with Medicare. Now, I have to be on guard, and imagine me when I get to a place where I can't take care of myself. And how's that going to play? I'm going to be like Dr. Norm Shealy. If I'm lucky, knock on wood, where there is a man who walks his talk, and you can say it. It's like going to a fat doctor. What's wrong with that image? It's practicing what they preach. And while he's putting you on an opiate for pain, what is he doing for himself in that same regard? And that's where the crime, it can be pointed out and identified right out of the gate. Now, religion is the same thing. Like science, it doesn't have the answers. I'm not down on Christianity. I'm saying that most people that purport to be Christian aren't. And that woman in the ad earlier about religion and, practicing what you preach, walking your talk, but not using it as an excuse to do things you don't believe in. There it is, hypocrisy. And that's the primary problem with Christianity, is they don't do what they preach any more than most religions in the world. And the reason a Buddhist can be a Christian and a Christian can't be a Buddhist is because of worldviews and extending your value systems to other people and giving them the same rights you would like to have afforded to you, like abortion. A woman has a right to her own body. Whether she was raped or not, she has that right, not the group outside telling her she can or cannot do something. That's wrong. A woman should have, in America, that's why I live here, not Iran, so that she does have that right. Whether you believe that she has the right or not, she still should be afforded the decision for her own body. And, I'm very strong on that. That's why I'm an American, not an Iranian. I choose to live here where she would have that right. Yet, our government would try in different states to rule her decision of what she can and can't do with her own body. Just like right to death, like my father went with the Neptune Club. My dad was in such pain, he did not really want to continue living. His wife, my mother, was dead, and he had no reason to continue living because of the pain. And they simply weren't moving fast enough in the state of Oregon. He took his own life because of the pain. Do I criticize him? No, I don't. I loved my father. He is what made me different than him. His actions were what taught me what I wanted to be and what I did not want to be. And that's where you begin your journey, is with yourself, not people outside. You seek religion for fellowship, to help you reinforce values you've chosen are important to you. But that does not mean they're absolute and everybody else is wrong. Doesn't work like that any more than it does with physics. Physics, in the last century, is the leading religion of the world. If science said it, you believe it. I'm here to tell you, it isn't like that anymore. So, with that said, I apologize if I've offended anyone, because I really never mean to offend anyone. I try to make them have the space of having their own belief system, and somehow we still get along together because I respect their values. Doesn't mean they're right or wrong. That's why we're God favored. We had choice.
Let's see. We've got Robert in Kansas. Welcome.
I'm
with Dr. Richard Allen Miller.
To the woodshed. Here we go.
Hey, good morning there, Vince. I wanted to try to answer your question about what money is. But then I also, can I first say to Dr. Miller real quick that truth is objective, meaning that it is not based on the perception of human beings. It is simply that which is. And so if you can test this in certain ways, you can throw good seed among bad ground, and you could believe with all your heart and soul it's going to grow. It will not grow. If you think you're a bird and you jump off a cliff, you cannot fly. So there are things where we can point to and say, there is this, and you're a physicist, so, I really appreciate that part of it. But Vincent, you said, what is money, right? Well, have you ever heard of something, an entity called mammon?
Tell us where you're going with this. Go ahead.
Well, mammon is supposedly like a spirit of not a very nice one, I guess. And that's one reason that I guess that I've heard that's why it says "In God We Trust" on the back of our money, is that ultimately you're dealing with a certain religion in a sense. And it goes into banking, it goes into the corporation, it goes in, Babylonian corporate fiction. This thing is really, really old, right? Tens of thousands, probably, beyond that, what do we even know about history, right? But that's, when you're dealing with money in the modern sense, and the money magic, and how everything that goes into how it works, it really is unfortunately, it's a God that isn't a very nice God or isn't a good God. Let's say not the creator God. People read that statement and they think, oh, that's the creator God when they put "In God We Trust" on the money. That's not the God that these people are into. Let's just say it like that. They're into a different God.
You're talking about a greedy pursuit of gain. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, capitalism. Greed is good.
I think greed is horrible, and I think that's
it's
one of the principal reasons we're going down as a nation is because the sum of all individual greed combined with the sum of all individual stupidity. Like the gal who was at the caucus, and she cast her vote, the Democrat caucus in Iowa, for Pete What's-His-Butt, and then she found out that he's a homo, and then she said, "Oh, can I have my ballot back?" She wanted to, because so that is like one part of stupidity. Okay, she is a voting member of the caucus, and she's not informed. She's ignorant of the facts, and then she finds out
she's informed.
Correct.
Making a decision before she's properly informed. And all of us make mistakes. All of us make mistakes. I do all the time. I just don't want to make the same one twice.
But how can anybody at a caucus who is standing instead of other people or representing other people and not know the basic facts? How is that possible? That's where we are. That's why we have higher and higher sales taxes. On the East Coast, there was a state back in the 1970s, I believe, and the state had what they called a shortfall. That means that they spent more than they had. And so the government of this particular state, and I believe it was the Garden State, decided that they needed a small patch, just a temporary patch. 0.5% of the sale of most goods, except for food and necessities, would be taxed. 0.5%. So it was a 0.5% sales tax. And then, well, we only need another 0.5%. And look, it's only 1 cent. What's the big deal? Just a penny. But they doubled it. And now what's it? Like 8%? So there are people who allow that to happen, who encourage that to happen. And I know one of these morons in the corrupt county that I live in, and she was instrumental in raising the sales tax from about 5.7% to 6%. Sounds like, oh, that's just a little bit. As a percentage, it's a huge increase. And the money's
Vincent,
wasted.
You start a business, right, to avoid taxes, how you always teach, and that goes right into the corporation, the Babylonian corporate fiction, how all this fits together. It's a way of basically getting you to worship something that isn't real and to submit to it in terms of money. They see money as God. That's what a corporation is.
I don't. Okay, I do not worship money. I don't worship money. As a matter of fact, I can. Oh, okay. I was going to say I can prove that very easily. We'll be right back, Robert. Robert, I'd like to ask you to bear with me for just one moment while I ask Rick this very important question. So, class, on December 7th, 1941, the government of Japan attacked the United States. The government of Japan bombed us at Pearl Harbor and killed thousands of people and sunk our ships at Pearl Harbor. Now the government of Japan is going to attack again, but this time not just the United States, this time the entire planet, by releasing massive amounts of radioactive water being stored at Fukushima, at the nuclear power plant. And, Rick, 1.2 million tons of contaminated water is going to be released by Japan into the world's oceans. What are your thoughts?
We're in trouble. That's dangerous. That is, nobody knows how badly that's going to affect us. I hope you post Joey's last post with me called Long-Term Storage Food, Lifeboats versus Yachts. There's your money question right there. Lifeboat versus a yacht. What is it that you need?
Rick, let me say it this way, class. Chemistry 101 at the university in the 1970s, early 1970s, the professor got up as 550 people in the chemistry class. He got up on stage and he held a quart jar and he said, "This is red dye. Red dye. If we pour this quart of red dye in the ocean and we stir it around and mix it up, and since all ocean waters are interconnected, all of them, Atlantic, Pacific, all of them, if we take an empty quart jar and we scoop out water anywhere in the world, top, bottom, left, right, we'll get at least one atom of red dye. We're talking about, that was a quart. We're talking about 1,200,000 tons.
Like plastic. That's why Subway, when you go to get a Subway sandwich today, they don't have straws out anymore. Good luck with that. The point I'm trying to make, this is not fixable. Once they do this, it's over. Cancer will be, it's already in every family. They can't remove tritium from the water. That's the deal. That's the problem. Tritium, not deuterium, tritium. And it's in everything. What you don't want is to be able to have it be of levels where it becomes toxic with an LD50 ratio. 50% get exposed to that and die. That's the measure that physics is. It also does not have the answer. We're in a bad situation.
We have the coronavirus coming from China, and we have this massive amount of intentionally dumped radioactive cooling system water that is going to be dumped by Japan. What do? I'm not buying anything if I can avoid it from China.
That's a good place to start. In the New Madrid fault line, we could start there. Turn the switch off.
So when everything just turns to lousy, that's when Lucille comes out. And unfortunately, it's too late. But those survivors, I think they're going to go hunting with Lucille for those perpetrators of these horrible acts. I think that's what's going to happen. I can't call for it to happen. Please don't think I'm saying y'all will do this.
Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. And actually, my logo is, in God we trust, all others we monitor.
Absolutely. Robert in Kansas, final thoughts.
Well, Vincent, that coronavirus, if China was attacked with that sort of weapon, I don't want to be on any sort of response, from them or anybody else. I mean, it really could be it spiral into a warfare of diseases like that. And I hate to say it, guys, we're on the surface, and it's not going to be good. Even if you don't get hit by the disease directly, it can have all sorts of other impacts that, all the things that you've always talked about, Vincent. And Dr. Miller is so right about all the plants that we have to be concerned with.
And how about the Chinese saying, you're going to have to get rid of your dogs or we're going to kill them, and your cats, because they can carry this. Once this gets more into the United States, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be on our shoes. It's going to be in the air. It's going to be in our clothing. It's going to be on the buses, subways, trucks, packages, people. It's going to be terrible. It's already terrible, and it's increasing. Please do your own research. Please inform your family. And one of your children going to a sports event, just because we got to play that game, can bring it home and kill you all. Am I kidding? No, I'm not kidding. Rick, thank you. Thank you for being with us. Robert, thank you for calling in and being with us.